Hello guys, we'll be starting soon. We are waiting for additional participants.
Hi everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the series on Careers in Technology by the Institute Technical Council, IIT Bombay. It is now time to launch the first talk in the series. It is titled, But What Exactly is Technological Entrepreneurship? Clean Technology. The speaker for the day is Mr. Nilay Shah. Nilay is currently the co-founder and CEO of Optify. He used to be a business development manager at CleanMax Solar, Mumbai. He graduated from IIT Bombay in 2016 with a BTech and MTech degree in energy engineering. We will get a glimpse into his startup life, corporate life, and IIT, each of which he has loved.
Bluetooth
Over to
mode.
you. We will wait for a few more minutes for some more participants to join us. Let's now have a quick poll so that we get a better idea of the demographics of the attendees. We'll then hand it over to Nilay to take us through his fascinating career journey.
Hello everyone, we request you to take the poll so that the speaker can get an idea of the demographics of the audience. Thank you.
Without further ado, let's hand it over to Mr. Nilay Shah to start the talk that we are all so excited for.
Thank you, Roshni. Thank you, the ITC team, for this invitation. Am I audible?
Yes, bro.
And
Yes, you're audible.
thank you. Thank you. So let's quickly start. Yes. Is it visible to everybody? I think so. I'll move ahead. So Starting with this career series talk, I am Nilay, co-founder and CEO of Optify. We are a startup in the clean tech space. I'll tell you more about what we do towards the latter half of this presentation. I was earlier a business development manager at CleanMax, CleanMax Solar. It's India's largest B2B solar company, and I'll tell you more about that journey also. And I passed out in 2016 with a dual degree in energy engineering with a minor in Setara. This I specifically mentioned because it determines a lot of my journey and my views towards life. Um, so currently I am the presenter. However, the culmination of this talk is just not my effort. There have been many friends, juniors and seniors, who have helped me compile the perspectives for this talk. And just over the last 24 hours, I've been in touch with them to build this perspective to be able to deliver better value, especially in the energy core fields. Also, I'd like to say a bit about my choice of energy engineering. Um, I chose this as my first preference after JEE. And the reason was mainly that I knew I myself cannot do a lot of very core, hardcore stuff, right? So I cannot, for example, sit in a lab all day uh, or do very industrial stuff or do coding all day, right? I wanted to be a generalist. I have interests in various sectors, technical, but more towards uh, I would say a mix of various disciplines, which you will see along the way. So um, that's some choice of why energy. Two disclaimers here. This is all my personal experience, and I draw abstractions from the personal experience. So this is not in general gyan. Uh, it is coming from a lot of actual experiences of myself and other people around. Second, that there will always be some personal bias. So, and your journey will always be unique. So take it with a pinch of salt, everything here. Yeah. Coming to the next slide. Yeah. So I start with what did I do at IIT? Very rich experience. I remember when I started writing my resume for the final year placements, it was like, I have not done anything at IIT. And by the end of it, when I actually had, I think, the 43rd version of my resume prepared, the final version, I was really very proud of whatever I have achieved at IIT. So I'll just glimpse through this because this experience will be very personal to everyone. However, it will give us some basis about where I come from, right? So in the freshman year, I tried debating. I was an orgi at Mood Indigo and TechFest. Tried different things, explored if I like them. There was a hunch, so it started with a hunch कि I like them, and a bit of कि सब लोग कर रहे हैं तो कर देते. Um, I found out by the end of first year that I do not really like debating, right? So I did not pursue it any further from the second year onwards. And in the second year, there was this global tech energy challenge that came in, which was basically an international competition between top universities across the globe. And I picked that opportunity, got the opportunity to interact with a lot of seniors and people in the energy department. Very enriching experience. Then in the second year summers, someone told me about Shodh Yatra. Shodh Yatra is a 7-day foot journey in a rural setting, which is organized by Honeybee Network, which is started by Professor Anil Gupta at IIM Ahmedabad. You can Google more about him. The reason I mentioned this that it was the turning point in my life. I, coming from an urban setting, for the first time got exposed to a rural setting and the problems that lie therein. After coming back, I started doing a TDSL, which is a Technology and Development Supervised Learning course at uh, Sitara under Professor Milind Sohani, uh, which was uh, which was a great experience for me, a real great experience. Usually, so what we were doing was analyzing water supply schemes in three rural villages, um, and finding out why has a water supply scheme failed in a in one village while it is successful at some other village. So realize that these on-field problems are really very complex. It's a culmination of technical, economic, social, political, lots of different problems, and finding a solution there is will be really challenging. It's a real challenging situation, even though it looks very menial as a water supply schemes, a solved problem centuries ago by mankind. However, not really on the ground in India. So, with these two experiences, I concluded that I really like doing development sector work, and that's what I continued in the third year with Samvad. Samvad is not present now, I think. It's a platform for discussing social issues, development issues in India, where people came together to discuss and do some things around the society. I also was part of the co-founding team of Abhyuday, which is the social activities festival. Again, in the development sector, not-for-profit sector, contribution, etc. Uh, all of this I've really liked doing. I found that this is my passion, and I continued similarly further down also. I'll take a in the third year summers. I did an internship at Carnegie Mellon University, and it was a research internship for about 2 months. That key, uh, uh, it's not something that is meant for me. I didn't really like that experience. I like that experience. However, I was clear that I don't want to continue doing this all my life. The reasons being, I think the life there was really chill. As a researcher or as a PhD student, you would be solving a particular problem. However, I found it to be very far from actual impact, and I could not see where my work will go. Right, that was one. Second was the culture in the US and stuff. However, didn't really attract me. I was really attracted to India, solving Indian problems here, uh, helping people, contribution, etc. As you can see from my previous experiences. So it was a clear decision for me after some exploration that I don't want to continue into MS or PhD later on. Right. In the fourth year, I did a lot of courses around energy, Sitara, and SOM, management courses in the fields that I like. For example, at the TDSL, I was doing interviews and research surveys, etc. So I took a SOM course about how to do market research, and it was really interesting. At Sitara, I would like, and I think 8 to 10 courses. Really interesting each of them, and enjoyed and excelled at each of them. Right. Um, at the end of fourth year, I was fortunate to get an internship at Piramal Glass. That's where I met Piyush very closely, and we are both co-founders currently. So it was an energy audit internship. Really interesting work, really impactful work. I could have done it. However, I realized that I am not really very good at it. Piyush is excellent at it, right? So found out, that maybe not the right fit for me. In the fifth year, I did, because of my Sitara inclinations while I am in energy, uh, I wanted to find something which is on the intersection of both. So I defined my thesis project as a waste to energy project, where again I have to do a lot of field work. We really did lots of surveys and on-ground work for weeks in two municipal councils of Maharashtra, Pen and Igatpuri, really characterizing the waste, finding out what is the best solution for them, interacting with the municipality, finding out what are the social issues, political issues there. Not everything can I report in my energy thesis project. However, as an experience, as an overall experience, it was really nice, right? And again, I was a mentor, contributing back to the freshmen about what I've learned so far, right? So, so this was what I did. However, what are the abstractions out of this, right? The first thing is explore. At IIT, your aim is to find your ikigai. Ikigai is defined as what you love, what the world needs, as an interaction of these four parameters. You know what you really like to do, as I found it in all the development sector work. Uh, what the world needs, what the world will value, what you're good at. I found that I was good at all the development sector stuff. Um, uh, with the grades and the quality of the work, got this feedback. And what you can get paid for, obviously. Uh, it has to align with your long-term life goals also, right? So do explore different things, and once you know, then quickly decide ki, do you want to pursue it or you want to drop it. If you like it, you deepen it with more opportunities, you do more things around it. As you can see, Samvad, Abhyuday, Setara courses, master's thesis. Once I found it in the second year that I like this, I went on exploring more and more in that field, right? um, so that's one. You will always find opportunities at IIT, I think, or you can, if you search enough on the internet or you speak to enough people, you will always find opportunities. Or you can create opportunities also. Like in the thesis project, I defined this project as like this, right? Uh, at IIT, you will never face a barrier here to create opportunities and connect, or access will never be a problem. So it will only be your intention, which is the key. uh, I think a lot of us, I've also done this. I've approached professors during semester times for some research projects, but then never went back to them, never even started on it, maybe. So try to do less of that, and get doing what you really like to do. If you don't like something, then try the next thing, but keep on exploring until you find what you like, till you find your ikigai. Also, don't be drifted away by the institute, uh, the bigger PORs, or is this gorgeous in the peer pressure around you. For example, I was in Sitara, which is maybe not even looked at by many, most of students at in undergrad, at least at IIT. However, I liked it, I excelled at it, and later down, people will really respect you for your choices because you will be good at what you do. So it's not about small or big; it's about what you like to do. Yeah. Uh, Coming to the next phase, corporate life at CleanMax Solar. CleanMax Solar is a very interesting organization where they sell solar as a service. So, for example, if you are a large manufacturing facility, for example, a Mahindra, who has a large plant around Pune, they have a large manufacturing uh, facility, a huge rooftop, and a lot of electricity consumption. So, CleanMax would put a solar plant on Mahindra's rooftop at no upfront cost to Mahindra, and whatever electricity is generated out of that solar plant, CleanMax would sell that electricity to Mahindra at a predefined rate for the next 25 years, which is the life of a solar plant. Uh, this rate of electricity would be, say, about 30% cheaper than what Mahindra usually pays to the grid currently, and thus it was a clear, good value proposition for Mahindra to do, right? And CleanMax would finance the capital cost of the solar plant would come from, currently it comes from debt and equity. Earlier it used to come from HNI investors like all the big industry tycoons, etc. So really great business model. where it contributes positively economically also as well as environmentally, right? So that's what I really like, that I could see real impact of my sales that I did there. So I was in business development, which basically means B2B sales. And coming from a technical background, being one of the top rankers in my department, I was also like, I don't want to do sales. I am not selling is not my thing that I'll do. I'll not drop solo in my own respect. However, I realized that this sales was awesome. It was really something that I loved. Technical sales where it involved technology. As in, I had to explain to the various stakeholders whom I met at the industries, starting from the operator to the supervisor to the managers to the CXOs, about what we are doing, answer their questions, and the energy background that I had helped really in understanding this better and being able to convey this in a better way, right? The next was economics, where we had a financial model. It was based on Excel, large financial model, and again, energy helped here to understand concepts like IRR, NPV, uh, payback, etc. And economics drives. So really got to know how business models work, business finance works, and um, how do clients make decisions. Got a lot of exposure in real industry in causing impact. Uh, and the last was legal. So we had a 50-page legal document, a contract, which would be signed between CleanMax and say a Mahindra plant, which needed to be negotiated. So it was sales plus negotiation, which I found out I really liked doing. Right. Also, since I was in sales, the benefit of sales is that it is a driver in a lot of organizations. So you get to know the organization through and through. You are not just a small cog in the wheel. You actually drive things externally as well as internally. For example, once I sign a project, I have to pass it on to the projects team, right, who would execute it. So any issues that are faced between the projects team and the client would come to me. So I would be an interface at a lot of points, and thus got to know the nitty-gritties throughout the organization, including the finance side, which was also a big part of what CleanMax did. Right. Um, I would say patience. So I could have CleanMax was a great organization. I could have stayed there and gotten better and better at sales. Um, and a lot of my colleagues who passed out from IIT Bombay, IIT Madras are still with CleanMax and doing well. So staying in an organization for a longer period of time deepens your intuition in that field, which people call as experience or domain knowledge. Se aata hai. So that is really valued at some point later because you've been there, done that. A lot of situations arise, and you can be better at decision making then, and also mentoring your juniors, etc. So uh, try to be more patient, try to learn. It also builds trust because you get better at what you are doing, so other people can trust you with some, say, out of the way work, some extra projects that come up, and that helps you professionally as well as personally in building relationships, etc. So do try and stay at a single organization for as long as you can, rather than the usual mindset ki, I'd heard one metric sometimes ki 50% of the IITians leave their first job within the first year. So that's not really a thing that uh, I would vouch ki, or I would recommend. So, to be frank, I was quite a laggard at CleanMax in the first year. Lots of delays in the work that was expected from my side, etc. However, I took feedback. from other people. And in the second year, I got much better at it. And I could see it in metrics. For example, the first project I closed, um, so taking it from a point of the price is fixed now, getting in a B2B environment, sales takes longer. So, for example, from the end of commercial negotiations, where the price is fixed, to getting the client to sign a contract can be a long period. In my first deal that was signed, it was 3 months. And in the later deals, I had a target for myself. I should complete it in 2 months and then in 1 month, etc. So I could see those metrics being met, and thus I knew I was becoming better and better at it. Closed more deals, closed more volumes. I could see people trust me internally. So all of that helps, in the corporate environment. That's what I would recommend you guys also to do. Right. Um, yeah, so I think, yeah, coming to startup life, Optify, right? So what do we do at Optify? At Optify, we focus on industrial dryers. These dryers are huge energy guzzlers. These are usually found in a lot of process industries like, say, textiles, food processing, pharma, chemicals, where some material needs to be dried. And drying is energy intensive because you got to overcome the latent heat of vaporization of water for a large quantity of material continuously. It's also a very critical process in a lot of industries. For example, say food. If the moisture content varies significantly, then if you have more moisture, then it it may the food may get spoiled earlier, and thus you would not have the same shelf life. If it has lesser moisture, then there might be cracks that develop. So it's a quality issue also in a lot of industries. Right. So we focus on optimizing industrial dryers. How we do that, I'll show that with this diagram here. So we employ our own moisture sensors. This is a technology that we are developing in-house. Each of these moisture sensors are quite costly to be found in the market. Usually they come from Europe. They get uh, charged an extra import duty, at costing at least say 5 lakhs, 8 lakhs a piece, right? We are developing these in India to get a significant cost advantage. And the second part is a smart control panel. Uh, this is this is an AI and machine learning based control system which can take in multiple inputs and control a lot of outputs autonomously. Uh, for example, here in this textile dryer, so the red line here you see is a fabric that is being passed over an array of rollers. Each of these rollers are filled with steam. So there is heat transfer that takes place from the steam. The steam condenses into water. The water is flushed out. And while condensation, the heat lost is taken up by the fabric. The fabric thus dries from, say, for example, for cotton, 50% moisture to 7% moisture would be ideal at the end point. So by employing these moisture sensors and a lot of other sensors as the inputs for this control system, we actually control the speed at which this fabric should move, what should be the steam pressure in each of these vertical stacks. You see two vertical stacks here, uh, and thus control the machine in a better way. To be simple, what this does is that it saves costs for the client. We are not over drying the fabric and thus not spending extra steam than what is required. Uh, it also improves the productivity. For example, if I can increase the speed by 5%, it means I actually uh, generate 5% more fabric every day. And this would be useful if this drying process is a bottlenecking process in the whole chain of processes that at the industry. And third is quality consistency. So currently, if there was no such monitoring and control, then it would be based on human touch at the output, kapada sukha ke nahi, and thus a lot of variations might occur, right? So by having these moisture sensors, we can control the output moisture within, say, plus minus 0.5%, and thus give better quality consistency for the client. It becomes especially important in industries like food processing, where quality control is essential. So that's a glimpse of what we do. We focus on sectors like, so we are developing these moisture sensors and the smart control panel, which can be industry agnostic. For example, I can employ the same hardware with a change in the coding in other industries like food processing, pharma, wood and paper, etc. Right? What the USP comes from the smart control algorithm, taking so many inputs and controlling them in a reliable way, which is 24 by 7, right? For example, a lot of fluctuations can occur in an industry. Lots of things can go wrong. Sometimes your sensors might fail, multiple sensors might fail together, but still the control system has to reliably control the dryer. It cannot go hunky dory, right? So that's the real challenge. How we employ AI and ML here is at the basic level, we say detect trends in the sensor data and thus predict, say that there are some early symptoms of a major fluctuation occurring, maybe 5 minutes down the line, and thus we should take some control action currently to be able to compensate for it. So things like this we do, we plan to do. We are currently in the trial stage with this product, with the sensors, and the control panel is still under making. Right. So yeah. So why did I choose a startup? Right. The first point was learning. I really feel that at CleanMax, I got uh, the basic sales skills I had developed, and now it would be about more responsibility, more people, more geography coverage, or more people under me, and it would be a bit similar. There is a lot of learning there, and still, however, at the end of 2 years, I was exploring can there be other options that I can do. And this startup, I feel the basic motivation why I am doing a startup is learning. I learn something new every day. For example, my daily life here would be about, currently we are hiring embedded engineers, 2 embedded engineers. So how do you assess if the candidate is a right fit for you from a soft skills perspective, uh, is a continuous learning. I have a questionnaire which has, you know, been improvised over the last 2 years. Earlier, I wasn't as good at it, and now I am. My questions are maturing, right? So something new every day. Also, contacting clients. So which sector should I contact? Should I contact the big players or the small players or the medium players? How should I pitch my product to them? um, what language should I speak? A lot of uh, every point has to be good, and I cannot be lax on any of these because lots of things for me are at stake. So, and it's really a nice experience to do this diligently, uh, and learning something new at every point. Uh, Second is, I would like to say now, some points on how and when to start a startup, um, because rest of the things will be very specific to my own context, and I can answer if you have any questions during the question answer round. um, Coming to the how and when to start a startup, I would say corporate experience really helped me to gain some actual industry knowledge and be able to appreciate a lot of things, how they work in industry. For example, business finance, what are the different departments needed for, what should be the skill levels that we should hire for, what are the different functions that we need to do, for example, marketing, finance, accounts, lots of things. Got a good perspective from a professional company, a high growth company point of view. How are all of these things managed? So I think corporate experience really helped me do this for when I was at CleanMax for 2 years. Um, Third is complementary skills. So Piyush and me, we both are co-founders here. Piyush is I think I store his name in my contacts as the world's best technologist. He's really good at what he does. He was at Forbes Marshall for 2 years, where his job was to find such optimization problems that we are dealing with now in a large process plant, and design and architect the first solution for Forbes Marshall, implement it at site, make it running, and then if it is successful, then Forbes Marshall would sell it to thousands of other clients, right? So uh, he was really good at it. He has uh, gotten to completion a lot of projects which were stuck at Forbes Marshall for 4 to 5 years earlier. Uh, so he comes from a very technical background, and all of this, this problem statement and the solution proposal, all of this comes from his experience at Forbes Marshall. Whereas I come from a very business side of things, finance, sales, negotiations, uh, etc. So having these complementary skills come together helped really, and I would recommend that in your startup you should also have such set of skills. And what binds us together at the very core is matching core values. Like I value contribution to the society, uh, uh, doing good for people. I think Piyush also resonates with me on those basic principles, and you know, and thus then a lot of things get sorted when such things do match between people. So um, I would say when choosing the right partner for you, look for basic values, basic principles, resonance on that between the 2 or 3 co-founders. And I would say that would form the basis for a strong and long-lasting relationship, no matter the bumps that come on the way. Right? Coming to I was asked to speak especially about the energy sector and what careers can we see uh, in the energy sector, and that's where I consulted a lot of juniors and seniors, uh, and saw their LinkedIn profiles and uh, compiled this slide. So energy, I would break this down into stages, like where in the context that we are applying, and then into roles, right? And where are energy engineers from IIT Bombay best suited to go, right? I feel energy is a very application oriented department. We have a lot of hands-on projects. This is versus a design oriented department. For example, we aren't taught how to design an IC, or the very core of mechanical engineering. However, what we are taught is analyzing and evaluating systems from an energy perspective, and being able to decide what is best suited for this current context, right? Um, so lots of analysis, evaluation is what we learn. Uh, However, if we club energy as a sector with any of the mother branches like electrical, mechanical, chemical, civil, then that combination is really strong in technicals. I'll give you some examples as we go through this slide. For example, on the energy generation, right? So wind and solar are big now. They are riding the wave. Both of these are growing industry. Solar, especially in India. For example, I'll tell you some real examples of alumni from the energy department who are in these sectors, and what are they doing, a glimpse of what they are doing, right? For example, in wind, there's a junior we have, my junior, who's passed out, who did his masters in Europe, and now he's with a company in wind designing power electronics for these wind turbines, right? So he clubs power electronics with energy, and thus is able to provide unique value, very state of the art power electronics he is designing for wind turbines. In the solar field, I told you about CleanMax. There are two other startups that we know. One is PV Diagnostics. It's started by a bunch of seniors from the energy department who do um, uh, technical services in the solar industry. There are large solar plants. Lots of things can go wrong. So gathering that data and finding the root cause analysis, why have things go wrong? What can we do? So it involves, real technical power electronics, energy, uh, maybe semiconductor physics, lots of such interdisciplinary things. Another startup is Solar Square. I think one of the energy seniors was a part of this, where they are doing stuff similar to what CleanMax is doing. So few of my batchmate, a batchmate of mine has also had started his own solar, solar company where he would install rooftop solar plants for residential sector and commercial sector. However, he got out of it because that sector is very generic. So anybody can get into it. It does not really require, so application of this technology does not really require core technical energy knowledge. It's more on the marketing side, finance side, etc. However, lots of obviously research going on into photovoltaics and better cells, etc. Right? Few of our people are in oil and gas at Schlumberger, at Shell, doing, at ONGC, doing field stuff, optimizing processes at the field, uh, and reducing downtime, maximizing productivity while maintaining costs, etc. Coming to the transmission and distribution front, where lots of good things and exciting things are happening with the renewables coming in. Scheduling of demand and supply has become a good major problem for energy utilities. I think we as energy sector experts can contribute in this field by using, say, data analytics, uh, and stuff like that. So one of our juniors is my juniors is at energy trading somewhere in, I think, the Netherlands, um, and he's so power is being exchanged, and thus it's a interesting field to be. I don't know the details there. However, I can connect you with the right people there. Um, yeah, there's a startup in smart metering by Puneet Batra, Avrio Energy, where uh, they're doing uh, analytics and insights about how can commercial and residential customers save their energy costs. Right. Coming to end use, so industrial is the biggest and the most exciting energy application, I would say, um, especially in the process efficiency domain. So I think we as energy sector experts are are best suited to, because process and industrial process, optimizing that process requires interdisciplinary knowledge of chemical, mechanical, electrical, and the core process, and being able to evaluate how one thing impacts the other, right? Usually business owners, for example, someone who owns say a, say a boiler, right? He or she would keep a tab on what is the specific energy consumption of his equipment, right? Okay, what is the cost of steam? However, analyzing why is his cost of steam lesser or more than the industry benchmarks or his neighbor, uh, finding that is a difficult thing which many people are not able to do, which I think with our energy background we are best suited to do this. And for example, waste heat recovery, and in industries someone might require uh, steam at 300 degrees Celsius, whereas they would require hot water at 150 degrees Celsius at the same time. So through our energy coursework, I'm sure a lot of us can do this optimization and thus save costs, provide value for the industry. Right? Piyush was also doing similar stuff, process efficiency, how to control a dryer better, such that it's a complex interplay of pressure, temperature, uh, electronics, chemicals, chemical engineering, mechanical engineering, etc. So here we can provide real value, I think, and we are uniquely suited. Predictive maintenance is another field. So there is someone at Bisleri. He was, as you know, if you are part of a process plant, then you would be driving the best um, state of the art energy projects at your company, and thus be providing value to your company by saving costs and improving productivity, maybe changing something in the existing machinery such that it performs uh, better energy wise, right? So these things people are doing really, and have excelled at it. There is Pushkar Kole, who was at Transparent, uh, which is no longer there. That was in waste heat recovery. Currently, he's at Thermax, designing better boilers and complex systems for large plants like iron and steel, cement, textiles, etc. Right. Coming to the residential sector, I think I won't spend much time here. Yes, there is scope here by automation. However, in the larger perspective, from providing impact and value, residential is sort of uh, plays a minor role, and it's very distributed, and hence it's difficult to provide value. However, there are some people in BLDC fans and IoT and stuff like that to automate and ease the quality of life in homes. Right? Coming to transport. Uh, so Pushkar was earlier at Mahindra, where he was doing engine simulations. Uh, you know, say for example, a car is rated to go from 0 to 60 in X seconds. So is it really being able to do that? What parameters need to be fine tuned for achieving that from an energy perspective and a whole vehicle performance perspective? Things like this. He was doing lots of simulations there, and then testing it with a actual test run of a Mahindra vehicle and stuff. So exciting stuff there. Um, User was co-founder of Carnot. Carnot is into vehicle health monitoring and thus providing insights for the owners as well as the OEMs how their uh, cars or tractors are performing, and thus helping them improve their performances. Coming to the commercial sector, where this includes hospitals, commercial buildings, government offices, malls, large scale energy consumption in a concentrated, say, a building usually. So, building energy performance is a huge sector. There is Rushil Desai, who did his master's at Carnegie Mellon in smart buildings and green buildings, and he's with one of the companies in the US doing this building energy performance, like optimizing between lighting, ventilation, AC, uh, and the waste that comes out, etc., to be able to optimize and provide real insights about how to improve energy performance of buildings and get, say, LEED certifications, etc. Right? That's a very exciting field, and it will grow later. In India, I think CEPT University has a course on this, dedicated towards this. uh, Storage is coming up big time, grid level storage as well as smaller scale storage, especially in EVs now. So there is Ravi Gelod, who was at Sony earlier and now with Murata, where he's doing research, cutting edge research on batteries. uh, so yeah, and the other field is consultancy. So for so there's a concept which is coming up, which is one sun, one world. Uh, Give me a moment. Something like one sun, one world, where I think it's led by the International Energy Agency, where people are speaking of interconnecting the grids between countries the power grids, and thus doing energy exchange across borders. So you can imagine this would involve a lot of policy, it would involve a lot of economics, technology, etc. And a lot of consultancies like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, etc. have their energy practices focused in oil and gas, renewables, etc., giving advisories to governments and multilateral organizations like IEA, etc. Uh, and thus we can join one of these organizations also. They also have their research centers like McKinsey Knowledge Center, Bain and BCG also have their own thing. Um, so things like this are also coming up and will only grow. Especially also, I think I missed a point in industrial field where a lot of companies, a lot of MNCs have now committed to carbon neutral by 2030, 2040, 2050, and thus they will have to take real actions in terms of energy performances, and energy and sustainability goes very well together, and thus I think we'll find more and more such opportunities where we are to not design a system but evaluate between vendors and pick the right systems for your particular manufacturing plant or a data center, etc. Right. So that's where I think project management or operations and evaluation, etc., will help, and energy people with their hands-on experience in these application side of things can contribute very well. Right. Um, Coming back to the policy, so climate change policy, there is TERI, there is Council for Energy, Environment and Water, CEEW. There is EDAM infrastructure based out of Mumbai. Uh, there is Center for Policy Research. All of these organizations where one of our alumni whom I know are present and doing some research in, say, for example, how can how can a certain technology be promoted in a certain, say, an industrial sector through policy? What should be the pollution norms?
It's 8 o'clock.
What should be the for example, the tariff rates? Example, in the solar sector, there is a tension between the grid and the solar sector. Say, if I put a solar plant on a Mahindra rooftop, then the grid, MSCDCL, is going to lose its revenues. So how do we solve for such problems? How do we promote, say, rooftop solar in the residential sector? Such things are being addressed by these policy organizations, and they are funded by multilateral organizations, governments, etc. Also, Niti Aayog and Invest India. Invest India, I think, is the father of Make in India. They are always looking for more and more people to in such energy policy sectors, right? So coming to as a summary of all of these, the roles that we can fit in are: one, in technology, like clubbing energy with a core technology like, say, power electronics or process and stuff, and thus providing real value there. I would like to say something here. The usual thing is that these sectors are not very paying very much, and that's the truth. In the starting years, you will really need to be patient with it. It won't pay much in the start, and the reason is because uh, to provide real value in these sectors, you need domain knowledge and experience, and which is really absent when you are starting as a fresher. However, once you are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line there, you would be really good at a very specific skill set, and the market or the company will really value your skill set because you can give insights which actually help them uh, save costs, provide better value, etc. Um, and thus, further down, the monetary compensation that you get or that you can command, the respect that you can command in these industries will more than compensate for the starting, starting at a lower salary, for example. Also, you can develop products like what we are doing. For example, Piyush here is designing sensors and control systems um, in this domain, and thus contributing there. Second is sales, where I was sales and projects or operations, where project management. I remember I was interviewed for K in India, where they wanted to set up a new oil and gas facility, I think, in Barmer. So they wanted to someone who can technically evaluate and do techno-economic analysis of the different technologies that are available, choose the best ones for them, negotiate with vendors, etc. So project management is a real good field if you really want to go on the project management. Sales, etc. are good fields if you want to be more of a generalist and more horizontal, like what I am currently, right? um, and the later how this careers will involve is that you would be part of strategy, product innovation, CEO's office type of roles, where you would be driving such projects for larger and larger organizations, contributing more and more impact. So these are good fields to be, very exciting fields to be. Lots of IIT Bombay folks are occupying such positions: CEO's office, product innovation, etc., and thus providing value there. The last is research and analytics, as trading or in the policy part of things. Uh, Lots of data, lots of analytics and insights we can provide. Uh, so yeah, that's all. I would like to say even in the technical domains, there is always a lot of relationship management that we need to do, right? So if you're thinking case if sales or only sales and projects will have people management, relationship management, it's not true. To get better and to have an unfair advantage in any sector, you need to be good with people. And I would encourage you to take more projects in IIT, hands-on projects with teams, where you can develop this relationship skills, where you understand what people are saying, what people are not saying, why are they not saying these things, how would you interact with an operator level, his supervisor, his manager, how would you interact with a CX. All of these skills are very much required in across all these sectors, all these roles. So I think things that we do at IIT do really help us in this. I think I'll end my presentation here, and I am open to any questions that you guys might have. Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, hello, Nilay, it's me, Santanam speaking. So we've
Yes,
looked at some of the questions that have been given by the attendants, and I'm just going to put up one of the questions. I've combined some of them and I'm putting it up for everyone to read over here.
sure.
So how did you go about, I'm going to read out the question. How did you go about finding this gap in the energy sector? So what you found over here about air drying is a pretty niche thing. Not everybody would see this gap.
Yes,
And how did you identify it? When did you identify this while you were still working at CleanMax? Did you start developing your product while you were at CleanMax, or did you leave and then start?
got it.
And yeah,
So
can you just tell us that?
yes, so when I was nearing the end of 2 years of my CleanMax stint, I was starting to explore what all can I do next, right? And I listed down all these sectors. I remember doing this sort of an analysis with my best friend. Where all can I do a startup in? So it started with waste, energy, rural water supply schemes, etc. Things that I had done at CleanMax, and things that I had done at IIT, and in the miscellaneous section I had written that I'll call Piyush once, right? So I did that call, and that's where this thing started. And all of this is a Piyush's idea, and how he got this was through his experience at Forbes Marshall. So Piyush was an R&D engineer at Forbes Marshall in the process efficiency group. So his main job was that he would be sent to a large, say, a brewery or a or a food processing plant and be told to find uh, what can we optimize and provide value. Can we, save costs for the customer? Can we improve his productivity? Can we provide better quality? Piyush would look at all the processes there and come out with specific, high value proposals about that we can, if we optimize this dryer, for example, or if we optimize this uh, yeah, I think he focused more on dryers, and I think in distilleries it's called fractional distillation, etc. Also, if we optimize this, then we can save X lakhs for the customer, improve his productivity, give better quality, etc. And thus, he formed this perspective. Um, and then, while at Force Marshall, he realized, okay, we can do this same control systems that we are deploying through Force Marshall. We can do it much better with adding some AI and ML and cutting edge technology, because the industry was fixed to PLC based controls, which is quite limited and an old technology, quite reliable also, right? However, has certain limitations. He found out that with better algorithms, with data analytics, we can probably have better value, and that's how we started. We did some numbers on how much value can we create, what is the market size, etc., and thus got into this as a full-fledged startup. We quit our jobs in August 2018. I think the the talks started from April. Also, Piyush was developing the first versions of these sensors part-time after his full-time day job at Fort Marshall. So, and around April, he had got the first breakthroughs also that his sensors had worked, uh, and thus we've had more confidence on the product. Yes, we'll be able to make this. Um, so that's how this started. Santanam, have I answered your question?
Yes. Could you elaborate now? Okay, once you started your startup, what are the major challenges that you faced? I mean, starting a company is not easy, right? You must have faced stuff, blind spots, for example, stuff that you don't think of, but suddenly turn up and then you have a problem. So, how did you deal with
Sure.
those things?
In fact, when we started this company, remember, we thought we'll make this product within a 3 months timeline and be out in the market with it. However, reality strikes, and we gain more maturity, more learnings with this. Uh, so, what were the problems? I would say, since we are developing hardware, uh, it it is very intrinsic that it will undergo iterations. The first few iterations won't work. For example, around June 2019, we made a single PCB which would do controls and which would also do the sensing part. However, if we try to get everything into one, then there are always a lot of things that are missed out, and there will be instabilities, etc. So that iteration failed. Later on, we separated the sensors and the control systems. The sensors worked, however, the control system was not very reliable. We also faced some human management or team challenges where uh, it's quite normal to face challenges to find the right person for your company. So that set us back by a few months. So uh, it's been great learning, and now we are learning to do more and more trials, have quick deployments, have shorter goals, and meet them more and more often. So all of these learnings are a part of this startup life. If someone has very specific questions, maybe I can share some specific experiences later.
So I'd like to follow up on this as you talked about your startup and the challenges that you faced. How did your corporate life help you with this startup? And do you feel like you could have started up directly after IIT, or those 2 years in CleanMax really helped you with your startup?
I think the 2 years at CleanMax really helped. Uh, and it is very crucial that there are some of my friends who have started directly from IIT, and there's a difference in, for example, the professionalism with which we approach things. For example, making a business presentation, what all is expected, uh, what all would the client like to hear, uh, all of such, very finer and softer aspects are very crucial in the startup life to, gather, uh, to save on time and be faster at deployments. Um, Let me remember if there is a specific examples. Some connects also from CleanMax Life helped me to gather my first few client meetings through this startup. Um, the sales experience helped to get a better grasp of what it takes to actually close a deal from from starting the first contact till the end. It's not really very fast or very smooth, uh, and thus how do you manage uh, clients, different stakeholders at the client organization, also from the operator to the manager to the CXO. So what are their interests, what would they like to hear, what can I ask them, what can I not ask them, all of these very softer points I got experience through CleanMax, and that's what I am very, now it's in my blood, so I'm using it day in day out without even realizing those things. Had I started from directly from IIT, I would have spent some more time figuring these things out also. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm going to shift from startup questions more to the audience over here. We have a lot of energy students are over here.
Very
So
nice.
can you talk to them a little bit about how should they go about exploring their interests? Because as you know about energy, we have a large number of department electives, lots of institute electives, and we
Right.
study a variety of subjects. So it can get very confusing at times. I like
Right.
electrical also, I like mechanical also, and so on. Right? So
Right.
could you address that?
Yeah, sure. So I remember this one time, and I was very interested. Let's do this refrigeration and air conditioning course in the mechanical engineering department. I attended it for the first, I think, uh, a month or so, and realized that I'm not getting head or tail of it, and thus I dropped it. So, point being, explore. If you think you are liking it, continue doing it. If you think you cannot cope up or it's too much, then you can drop it. Uh, so yeah, I think that's one point. Second is doing more projects with professors, with teams. I remember there was this solar energy, zero energy house, uh, a solar decathlon, right? That was a big thing during our time. Lots of energy, people were driving it. Lots of good experience they would have got on in designing a solar energy house, implementing it, etc. So, for example, Rushil was also part of that, and I'm sure it helped him some way in his green buildings career, right? That he found it nice to do it, and thus he continued doing it. So, do more projects, explore more courses. I personally chose courses which were more on the analytics side than on the technical side. Like, I did not choose, say, for example, nuclear engineering or refrigeration, air conditioning, but I chose process optimization. I chose some things in Setara. I chose some so courses which had some field work, etc. is what I liked doing. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I'll just take a quick break to say that I'm adding a feedback form in the chat, and I just wanted to announce that. And now back to the moderators to ask more questions.
So now that you've been working at this particular startup, you're using machine learning and AI. So one of the questions we've received are what are the applications of mechanical and machine learning or AI in the energy sector from an internship or a job perspective? Like,
Okay.
let's say somebody from our department wants to come and intern with you itself, what kind of work would they be doing?
Um, for I'll start with us and then move on to more generic applications. With us, for example, they would be designing more robust control systems. Um, the challenges would be how do you detect trends in the incoming data? How do you determine abnormalities? Filter out the abnormalities, find out what is the real data, uh, use that data to predict an upcoming failure in the dryer, uh, and what should be done, what levers. You might have 5 different levers, so what levers should be used for that. Further down, we want to get into things like um, the machine itself will detect that the sensor, two of these sensors have failed, and thus it should fall back to a backup algorithm, a backup control algorithm, and notify the client about what to do. Further down, we can go into things like um, remote troubleshooting, right? That I send this data over the cloud to us, and uh, that's not really ML and AI. However, it's some part of IoT. Um, yeah, so things like this, developing better and better control algorithms for reliably controlling a dryer, and then moving on to other things like multiple effective evaporators, which are another major energy guzzler and difficult to stabilize. Especially in our domain, it's more about ruggedness and reliability than it is about AI and ML. However, in a lot of other domains, like say self-driving cars, so one of our IIT Bombay seniors is with Uber ATG, where he's designing autonomous vehicles, etc. So that is one. Um, so PV diagnostics, for example, gets a lot of data from the solar plants. So how do they do the data analytics key? Because they see such and such trend, means that an inverter might have failed, or there is too much dust on the solar power plants. How do they do these analytics autonomously using ML is what they are trying to do now. So maybe you can approach them also for internships or projects or job opportunities later. Did I answer that well?
We'll see what responses we get. So then the next question somebody has asked us is how much automation and efficiency opportunities are available in the energy sector in terms of distribution and transmission? So you talked a little bit about transmission and distribution as one of the sectors. Are you aware about the opportunities of automation and efficiency in those sectors?
Automation and efficiency in distribution and transmission sector. So I know 2 3 things here. One is that Eaton is designing some products in the smart grids domain for distribution and transmission, and how to do the communication and networking in these sectors in a smart grid context. So they are developing, I think, some hardware for this. One of our MTech uh, alumni is with Eaton doing that. Second is that Abhimanyu Dhariwal, a senior, had was with McKinsey Dubai, where he was helping power utilities become more efficient. I don't know what he was doing, but his LinkedIn profile says exactly this. I think they were also building some products around this. So that's one. Mm, and what else? Efficiency. So I think a lot of these policy guys would be doing demand response and such policy uh, experiments, which would involve a lot of data and making things more efficient, etc. So things like, say, a torrent power would like to flatten its demand curve, right? So how can it design some programs for the larger utility clients would be a interesting field. And yeah, so things like this in transmission and distribution.
Okay. Next, I'm going to bring you back to your IIT life. So one of the questions is that, so as you know, in energy, there are multiple options. So did you, after exploring different options, did you ever find yourself in this confusion that you liked multiple things, that you liked, I like doing research on, as you mentioned, refrigeration, as well as maybe a little bit of controls or a little bit of sitara. And did you then feel like, okay, I want to do this and this? How did you resolve the confusion that you felt because you had multiple options?
Um, I think I tried different things, explored a bit, and saw if I like it. If I don't like it, if I can get out, good. If I cannot get out, I would just pass through it. That's also fine for me personally. And for example, in the coursework, right, lots of course options. I usually took a lot of credits. I could somehow complete them. So yeah, try different things at different points of time, and saw what I liked, what I didn't like. Uh, yes, but at the end of, say, for example, CleanMax, I could have done technical sales in a lot of other institutions also. However, I you know decided that I want learning as my major criteria. A startup would be best suited for that. Within startup also, which sector to start up in was a question. Should I start it in a Sitara type sector or an energy type sector? Was a question. Um, this call with Piyush happened. Uh, there was a decision to be made that it looks like a good deal, that there is a half-baked product that we have. Uh, there is a great partner that I have. And such. So basically, I for any decision making, I make a table. I give weight. I decide some criteria. I give some weightages to these criteria, and uh, thus decide. I think energy guys are best suited to make such evaluations. So that's how I operate.
So just a quick question here about your startup. If you're allowed to tell us about how successful is it at the moment? How much money are you making, or what's your turnover like? Have you
Sure.
got any big clients? Anything, if you could tell us about that.
Not yet. Not yet. So we have our first customer, which is from a friends and family domain, where we are doing the first trials. We are also in a sort of a pivot stage currently, where because of COVID, textiles is not doing great. It will pick up, say, 6 months down. So in the immediate future, we are looking at food processing and other industries which are doing good. Maybe also pharma. However, uh, so we are doing some trials here and there. Um, about capital, we've raised two grants. One from Sion IIT Bombay. The grant name is called Nidhi Prayas. It's especially for hardware startups who are in the idea or POC stage. So very early stage, they do it. This funding based on just your idea, right? So that's a good opportunity for people who want to start up. Another grant that we got is from CIIE IIM Ahmedabad. They ran a program called IoT Innovation Accelerator, which was sponsored by Cisco. So we got that grant also sometime last year, and we put in a lot of our own money also. So that's how we are sustaining currently. In terms of clients, I think the IIT tag did help us, and some past references, etc., did help us get access in the large textile mills, say the Irwin mills and the Raymonds, etc. Uh, so that's some headway. However, we don't have a confirmed order from them currently. So yeah, that's where we are with the startup, and it's exciting. This pivoting stage is really exciting. Lots of decisions, strategic decisions we got to make, and I was here exactly for doing this, learning this, becoming better at this.
Okay, thank you. So next, I want to ask you about alumni. How did you go about contacting alumni, the network of IIT Bombay and its alumni network? How did that help you with your startup? How did you contact them?
Right. So, so currently the contacting that I've done is from those people whom I knew well at IIT days. We keep in touch few months, maybe through a WhatsApp message, etc. Um, and then someone would connect you to the other. Uh, for example, a batchmate connected to me to a senior yesterday who was in food processing domain. So I spoke to him for 25 minutes. Very nice chap, very helpful, and I think most IITians would fall in that category. They would be very approachable. You can connect to them on LinkedIn also. I've heard that it's a very good pathway which I'll use in the near future, not yet used now. um, so yeah, I think LinkedIn and through connects, maybe through professors also, you can reach out to alumni and make introductions, connections, etc. And how did it help me? I've got a lot of fun day about startups from other fellow entrepreneurs at Sign who were doing their own startups, who were 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down with their startups. So in the starting phase, about what to do, what to focus on, what to not focus on, what are the industry benchmarks. For example, how much margin should a distributor get for a sensor is something that is an industry knowledge which you would get by being in that industry, right? Since we are a startup, we did not have that experience. So I asked someone who just told me on a phone call, "Hey, itna hota hai," right? So things like this helps a lot, uh, and such networks, uh, even if maybe not immediately useful, they go a long way and are very important in the longer run. And I'm starting to appreciate that more and more now.
Okay, I have one question from students who care a lot about their CPI. How did you were the DR1 and you had a decent CPI? So how did that affect when you were choosing courses or career options? Like generally, you want to choose easier courses to maintain a high CPI, right? So could you
Okay.
talk a little bit about that?
Um, I think I never, though I was DR1, it was not a conscious, uh, effort there. In fact, there was very healthy competition. Fortunately, the tag comes because uh, the three people who were ahead of me did a branch change in the first year, so uh, I got that tag from the second year onwards. But in terms of choosing courses, I always chose courses based on my interests. If it were elective, I would tag them as additional learning elective so that they didn't affect my CPI if I was unsure if I would do well or not. And then I can later tag them later. I think there are 1 or 2 windows that we get. So that's something that I did. But मतलब, yeah, it was purely based on what I would like to learn and study, uh, mostly. Never based on will I get a good grade there. Do I? Yeah.
I think that answers the question rather well. So there's one specific question that we've got here. And how did you manage your money during the development stage of your product? Like, did you fund it based on your savings? Did you go to some investor? How did you
Okay.
do that?
So we quit our jobs in August. I I came to Pune where we have this office set up in October, and by December, even before we incorporated a company, we had this confirmation of this grant from Sign IIT Bombay, and we had the money in the bank account. So that helped in the starting phase. Obviously, family helped in supporting this investment, and I would recommend this highly. Okay, if you are starting up, look for grants in the starting phases because if you don't have a, say, a working POC on field, then these grants are specially designed for such early stage startups. And the time you would invest in applying for these grants, which means maybe filling a Google form in detail, maybe shooting a video, all of that time is very much worth the reward that you can expect from this, like in terms of money. It's quite disproportionate, so it makes sense to apply for grants in the starting phase phases. And there are lots of incubators around the country. Lots of VC funds are also coming up with early stage capital now, and it's very much available for tech startups as well as non-tech startups now. So yeah, that's something that we did. I made a database of all the applications. There are lots of websites like F6S, like you scour the incubator websites, find out what their past programs were, and thus, you know, then get links to other, say, the Government of India website, which hosts or sponsors these programs, and thus you get more and more connected there.
Uh, could you just let us know what kind of amount did those grants fund you for?
So the Nidhi Prayas, the first one was 10 lakhs, and the second one was about 17-18 lakhs. The second one from CII Ahmedabad.
Okay. So we've gotten one last. We're going to just take one more question because we're kind of running late. So somebody's asked, should we go with for angel investors or venture capitalists? Do you have any idea about this, or does this come much later?
I think that's a question that we ourselves are to answer. What I've got recently from one of my friends who is with a VC firm, a very renowned VC firm, is that angel investors close their processes quicker. You can find strategic investors, right, who are in your same industry. For example, maybe for us, people who were in the US, in Silicon Valley, in some hardware electronics type of a domain, or semiconductor domain, or people who are in these process industries and owners of some, say, textile plants or food processing plants. They would have extra capital and are looking to invest. So that's a real good bet at early stage when we have one or two on-site installations and POCs done. And then maybe we can go for VCs. VCs are also available currently. However, their process might be longer, their due diligence might be more stricter, etc. So, so yeah, both are good. However, like choosing the right investor is something that is important. You should not choose investors who do not have experience with startups, or who do not appreciate your industry, or who would be micromanaging your startup. So that's something very generic that we should look out for while choosing an angel investor. This is usually not a problem with VCs.
Okay. I think we've come to the end. Is there anything you'd like to say? Any parting words of wisdom? Any conclusions? Anything?
No, I would say just explore. Try that by the end of your IIT life. And for energy guys or energy guys, by the end of fourth year, know what you want to specialize in, so that you can choose your job or your thesis project in a specialized domain that you like, you're good at, and then you can develop it further. If it's fine if you don't know what you like, but at least making an effort is really important at IIT life, right? So yeah, that's about it. And I'm available for any time for a chat. You can connect to me through LinkedIn, etc. For any further discussions.
Thank you very much. I'll hand over to Roshni for the conclusion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the talk, Nilay. It was really interesting, and I'm sure I speak for everyone present when I say I learned a lot about many opportunities in startups and in the field of energy. I would also like to thank all the participants for taking series, and I hope to see you in the other talks as well. I also urge you to please fill up the feedback form. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you, Roshni and the ITC team, and Santanam for coordinating all of this really well. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.